First, we're going to test if the application will work. So I'm using MySQL, and I have one table and it's named user with the column names of ID user, username, and password. I'm using Postman to test this. So if we're going to create a new record, let's say I'm going to create username AA528 with a password of test. Send this, and we verify our table. And now we have our new record, which is AA528. And if we are going to authenticate that, it is AA528 with a password of test, and we get a true, meaning our password and the username, of course, it they match. And the only important thing that I want to show here in Postman is, aside from the body, we also need the authorization. By default, I'm just using user. And as for this password, I've hard-coded this in our properties file. So if we look at our application.properties file, well, let me just stop this. Here you have Spring Security user password, and I've hard-coded that, and that must match whatever the password in your Postman is. Okay, so that has to match. And my code can be found in GitHub, and I'll have a link on the description. And I'm using MySQL, and just change this to whatever password you are using. And here I'm also using update for the DDL auto, so it will create the table for us. But again, this is just for demo purposes and not meant for production. So in our pom.xml file, we have JPA, starter web, MySQL, and security. Okay, so those are our dependencies: the security, JPA, starter web, and MySQL. And then we have our security config, our config file. So this is the contents of our security config. Again, this demo is just for authentication. There's no JWT, and there's no rules or granted authority or things like that. This is just for authentication. Okay, so here in our configuration, we have our password encoder, and in the security filter chain, we disable the CSRF because later on I'm going to use a JW token. And for our endpoints, we have the user and user create. Just put that to permit all. As for this, right now this has no role yet because we're just using the endpoints user and user create. And this is our user entity. It just has a ID user, username, and password. The usual stuff. I'm not also using Lombok, so everything. I mean, everything's there. All the setters and getters are. They're quite explicit. Okay? And you have the um, iUser's repository, which just extends the CRUD repository, and you have find by username, and then we have our iUser service. You have find by username, create user, and authenticate. And for the implementation of that is our user service, and this is our code. This is for the create a new user, and this is for authenticating the credentials of the of the user. It's quite simple. And also, this is our user controller. This is for the create user, and this is for the authenticate. Again, it's very minimal, and the reason why I created this video was, if you read books, there are so many things that you have to read, but I'd like to learn with um, with only a few things, and I like to isolate things. So for now, it's just the authentication, and then later on will be the um, JWT and the rules. Okay, so again, I'll put a link here for the GitHub repository in the description, and I hope this helps you in understanding the Spring JPA's um, um, authentication. Thank you.